I want to ask you guys. I just put in a list. I don't remember how many movies of terrible book to movie adaptations.
Okay.
Um, and I want to ask you guys of the movies I have in here. We can go back and forth. Which one do you think is the worst book to movie
Okay.
Hmm.
adaptation? You
What's
don't
our
have to.
list?
So we got Divergent,
Mm,
Okay.
um,
Aragon.
Aragon,
okay.
Okay.
John Carter,
All right.
I kind of like that one.
The
The Shining,
Shining.
Okay.
Dune,
Dune, the old one.
the
All
old
right.
Dune.
The 80s.
I've never seen it, so
That
okay.
might be it.
I watched, okay, so editing for let's see, The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
All right. That's it.
Yeah.
So, in preparations for the editing this one video we did on Dune and Star Wars, I watched some. I haven't seen the old Dune, but I watched some of it from YouTube clips. You weren't kidding when you said it's bad.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
They milk a cat.
Yeah. Also, the
cat
voice
milk
is super cheesy.
Yeah. Now
Um,
they stayed true with like the red hair for the Harkonnens, but
I'd rather see him bald,
No,
honestly.
that's it.
I like
I'm fine
to
with them being
deviate from
bald.
that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like the
okay with
deviation.
that change personally.
All
okay.
right, so how are we doing this, Wyatt? Are we ranking 1 to 10 or 1 to 5? And we're
I
gonna
was
see
kind
what's
of
the
just
best?
I was kind of just gonna keep it a little bit loose, and
Okay.
A little loose.
you guys just tell me,
How we feel about it.
one. Yeah, how do you guys feel about
All right,
Divergent?
I'm gonna rank these in my head because I'm gonna
Okay.
lose track of myself. So let me pull
Yeah.
out my notebook and
So
my pen.
for Divergent, I've not read the books. I've not read the books except for The Hobbit of any of these. But
I would say just how much do you like the movie? Because
yeah,
How
so
much do you like Divergent?
the factions specifically aren't bad to me. They're a little weird, but they're not that bad.
Okay.
I feel like the love relationship in this is like they don't have a relationship and then they have a relationship and it's like, what? When did this happen? There's no
you're right.
establishing of a relationship in this.
well, she
these
saw
kind
his cool tattoos and then she's like, I'm your girl.
These kinds of books are solely supposed to be dystopian relationship stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
not an interesting
hot guy. I need to love him. And it's
Yeah.
like, why? It's like, okay.
I find it interesting. You go to look at books like this that are dystopian written by women versus books like this that are dystopian written by men. The dystopian women written books almost always have a very heavy love story. It's not bad.
We see that with
Oh,
Hunger Games. We see that with Twilight.
Divergent.
Divergent.
It's not bad, and it's sometimes good entertainment. But there's a lot of like similar universes written by men where there's almost never like a primary hardcore love story. It's mostly about the dystopian future.
Contrast that with The Hobbit. I mean, you do have a love story there, but it's really more of a beautiful friend to friend or companion to companion love story.
Yeah,
by man,
it's
not
really a real
so much.
straight love story.
Yeah, not so much
Among
a love
boys,
story.
among homies.
Right. All right. So I'm giving Divergent a 3 out of 10.
A cross racial.
Yeah.
I'm giving
romance.
Divergent a 3 out of 10, not just because I didn't like the story, I didn't like the characters. I also, this is incredibly forgettable. I mean, this is
That
a
was the
million
biggest
times
issue
more
with
forgettable than
You know,
Hunger Games is.
I'm going to give it a 3.3 only because Miles Teller's in it, and I've got to respect anything Miles Teller does.
I will say this for this
young
film,
Miles.
casting. Their casting for these movies was excellent. It was perfect. It's almost as if the book was written to become a movie.
A little bit of a last minute to follow up on the success of Hunger Games. Aragon. I watched this a long time ago. It's really hard to remember.
It's bad.
Look, I just remember the opening scene being really cool in the dragon battle. And it's like from the POV of on top of a dragon's back.
it's bad.
All right, I'll give it a 2. I mean, I never came back
I'm gonna
to
give
it.
it. I'm gonna give it a 3 point. I'm gonna give it a 4 because I like the dragon riding stuff.
Okay.
I don't like the story. I'll give it a 4.
I would probably give it a 3, but only because of the how it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
All right, look, if it's so bad to you guys, I'm a little bit more picky, I think. So
Well,
I think 2.
I think it was bad. I think it was bad because the book is so iconic for people. It's such a huge part of this generation, people our age. This was Aragon was like their Lord of the Rings. It was a big fantasy series.
Yeah.
With I think it's like 3 or 4 books, and now there's a new book, Murtagh.
Yeah. Me and Ethan were just talking about this.
Yeah, it's huge for some people, and I think this movie was a big disappointment. I think the what brings this movie down isn't the casting or the acting or the animation. It's the disappointment for people.
I watched this movie before I knew it was a book. I was literally probably 11 years old when I watched this movie. So it's been that long.
And Jeremy Irons really phoning it in. while what's his face? What's his name?
Old guy?
John Malkovich.
Okay.
The guy all the way to the right here. Right. Malkovich is just like being John Malkovich, and it's always entertaining.
Always.
Because he's got that way of, he's like, I want this boy hunted down, I want him killed. The way that he delivers his lines is always the same in movies, and I love it. It's so serious.
And always him. I mean, him in Red was hilarious. I loved him in Red as well.
He's great.
John Carter, I like the movie.
I like the movie.
What book readers feel. I don't know how book readers feel, but I like the movie.
Let me explain this one. I loved the movie. I watched it and I was like, man, this is such an interesting world and story. I gotta read the book.
I love when he goes into the tomb and just lays down and
so Wyatt did this to me. I mean, Wyatt got me to read the book, at least most of it. I didn't finish it, but most of the John Carter book because of he got me interested. The book is totally different, and yes, it's its own thing. It's a soldier, a Civil War soldier of like a very thick accent, and they didn't give that to him in the movie at all. But I like the movie as a standalone movie.
Like, I enjoyed the movie, I really did, and I think there was a lot to love about it. And without, if it didn't have the book, I feel like this would have been a great movie, and people would have loved it.
So when you read the book, did you just realize it was completely different, or did you like the book is better actually? And
I
the
did.
movie
The story in the book was better because of the motivation in the movie. He's like, I gotta get back to Earth. I will help you, Deja Thoris, but I gotta get back to Earth. I want to get back to Earth. And towards the end, he's like, I think I really love this princess, and
I don't want to get back to the Earth.
Right, and I kind of want to stay here. In the book, he sees her, and he's like, I don't care about Earth anymore. I want her.
I don't care about the gold that I've.
He's like, he's like, forget about Earth.
Forget
about Earth.
I love this place.
I am fighting. I don't care. I don't care what side she's on. I'm fighting for that side. Right? That was his motivation.
Nice.
So he's like, I gotta save her.
This is good motivation. I feel like.
I love that motivation.
All right, so what you gonna give this movie?
I'm gonna give this as a movie a 5.5.
Kind of like this movie.
Yeah, a 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5, 6. Yeah, sure.
5.
This is not the worst one for me.
You know what, Joshua? I'm just realizing when we did 1 out of 10, when you start playing the point game, you're doing 1 out of 100, right? Is my math correct? when you start playing the point game, that's 100 if we're doing 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm right. They can't play that game. When we say 1 out of 10, you can't start saying, "Oh, freaking 3.3 or 5.5." That's 33, dog.
Yeah, because technically now if you're saying 1.10,
yeah,
that's now a 2, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, that you're 1.10 is a 2, but I'm just saying we agreed to do 1 out of 10, and Josh was playing 1 out of 100. Okay,
I'm playing my own game here,
I
dog.
think it's so freaking stupid.
I'm
You're down
playing
for
my
a
own
5.
game.
You're down for a 5. You're not allowed to do 5.5.
Well, no, bump it up to a 6 then.
Even if you're doing like 1.5 or 2.5, if you're adding in the 0.5, it's now become 1 out of 20, right? You've now doubled the score.
Yeah, sort of, but we're playing a 1 out of 10 game, and Josh was wanting it to be a 1 out of 100 game. That's what Josh was doing here, right? My math's not wrong.
I think it's correct. I think your math's correct.
If each number gets 10 digits that can be associated with it, then we're playing a 1 out of 100 game. And I don't like that.
You might as well say 54 at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I give it a 73.
No, 55 is what I said.
Joshua gave Divergent a 3.3.
Yeah.
33. He can go through 100 digits. 100, and he lands on 30 freaking 3.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, so you both gave it a 6. I gave it a 7 because I haven't read the book. I literally watched John Carter not long ago for the enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
The Shining.
This is a good movie.
So this actually, I think the movie's good. I think it's interesting because the movie is so much different than the book that it takes on a life of its own. But I love the concept for the book so much that the way that the movie is kind of bothers me, and it also bothered Stephen King. So that takes it down a couple notches.
Stephen King is a pervert and a weird guy.
Yeah, but also I think Stanley Kubrick's a weird guy as well.
Sure.
Isn't he dead? He's dead, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Stanley Kubrick's dead. Let me take a look at that.
I'm gonna give this movie.
Kubrick did some weird movies.
As a standalone, I'm gonna give it a 6.2.
At 62.
Gosh.
No, a 6.
Yeah. The movie's a 6.
Yeah, Stanley. I'm right there with you guys at 6. So
we're not now. This is like the movie for me is like a 4, right? On my.
We all give it 6s.
It's 6. That makes sense.
Oh no. I'm going with 5.
The movie for me is like a 4. Just like to watch, but I'm talking about as an adaptation.
Yeah.
And in these rankings of movies,
have you read the book, The Shining?
I've read pretty big portions of it because I had to write a paper on it.
Interesting fact about Stanley Kubrick. I'm not a big fan of his movies. He did like Eyes Wide Shut, and Eyes Wide Shut is, it's one of the movies I turned off because it's so horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start it knowing what it was, and he died right after making that, which is the movie's about, it's about the people who control the world or really high up important people's sex cults. That's what the movie's about. And he died soon after. So what do you think?
The island.
I mean, it's not far off. I mean, he was probably doing some sort of a story that highlights the depravity
there might be secret messages in that movie about Hollywood.
It's hard. Look, first off, it's starring Tom Cruise, which is why I watched it. I did not know it was about sex cults, which is why I turned it off. All right. But I watched it because I was like, oh, look, a Tom Cruise movie. And I started it. And then he goes to the party and then everybody's naked. And I'm like, nope. So
it's a big surprise when you turn on a movie.
It took a turn. I didn't know what was happening. No, there's 2 movies I've turned off. and that's one of them. So I wouldn't recommend it, but that's Stanley Kubrick. He also did The Shining, obviously. So
yeah.
What's the next one? We have The Hobbit, right?
Dune, I think, and then The Hobbit.
Okay, so let's get through these quick. Dune, I put it at a 1. I mean, the scenes that I watched is terrible.
This, I'm actually going to give a 3.
I'll give it a 3 with Spike because I haven't seen it.
I'm going to give it a 3 because I love Max von Sydow as Liet Kynes. I think he was an incredible Liet Kynes. And I love Patrick Stewart as Gurney Halleck. He's great. And the guy who plays Paul's dad, excellent. Some excellent acting from him. Now it feels like theater acting, but it is some excellent acting from him. So some of the choices that they make in this movie, and of course that scene where Sting is standing there, kind of the way he is here. Peter Pan.
I haven't seen the thing. I've just seen a bunch of scenes from it.
I want to watch it, and he's all
sweaty and glistening, and he's just like, it's iconic.
All right, so it's pretty low. So 3 and 1 and 3, I guess. Josh was just giving it a non-viewed vote,
and then the cat milking scene.
The what?
Cat milking scene.
Oh, right. That's iconic, I guess.
Yeah. So here's a question I want to ask before we jump into The Hobbit. Are we judging all 3 as a series of adaptation from the book The Hobbit, or just The Unexpected Journey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All 3.
It has to be.
Yeah.
All right. First off, I have one interesting note. When I initially watched it, I thought I didn't like the side story that was added to the Hobbit story about the necromancer in Dol Guldur and everything. When once you get into the lore of the history of Middle Earth and you realize that's real events and everything, and it is happening around the same time, and you're just kind of like, oh, this is actually an interesting side thing that's in in other pieces of work, just not in the Hobbit books themselves. I'm not mad at it. I think it's an interesting thing now. Now I do have an issue with a lot of the choices around the orcs that they did, and like the giant sandworms that they used to travel underground and stuff.
And even the animation, the practicals versus animation was not great in this film, but that's really my only complaint.
So I've gone back and watched these movies.
Not as bad as you think when you watch them.
I've gone back and watched them, I've gone back and watched the extended versions. The first time I went back and watched them, I came out at the end and I was like, okay, they're not as bad as we originally said.
Remember them to be.
Right. I went back and watched them again, the extended editions, and maybe a little bit of a hot take. I think they're really great.
No.
I think they're really great movies.
Good.
We look at the animation and we say, wow, there's too much animation. They're just kind of hitting orcs and killing them. Yeah. But there is so much.
Here's the thing.
There is a mix of practical and animation in these movies that is really, really solid. And the animation of the orcs, the white orc, is good.
It's all right. Actually, it sucks that you weren't here 2 weeks ago, because me and Joshua played a little game that you actually have to go and watch. So after this, I was going to ask you if you would watch it beforehand, but then so we could get a follow-up. But we ranked fully animated villains.
Oh yeah,
we did a tier ranking, and in the last episode. So when we're done with this, go watch and see if you agree with our ranking. I think the Hobbit movies
7, 8, 7.
What are you still talking? Okay, never mind. The Hobbit movies are good. I think just good movies until they kill Smaug, right? I think once Smaug dies in the Battle of the Five Armies, they tell a lot more story with the orcs and with everybody. And I think it's becomes a lot less interesting about, and honestly, if I'm being honest,
Honestly,
not
if
to
you're being
insult, not to insult the
extra
professor. Okay.
honest.
JR.
I think no, the professor. Yeah, J.R. Tolkien.
Yeah,
Not
JR.
not to insult him, but the Hobbit becomes a little bit more disinteresting when Thorin starts to become greedy and blinded by his thing.
I would agree.
I'm
in
gonna
the
hardcore disagree with you on
in the
that.
No,
reading of the
I would agree.
story,
I would
I
agree.
lost interest because I was like, there's so much awesome story and adventures, and then you kill the dragon, and then Thorin's dealing with greed, and I'm like, all right, this pales in comparison to the rest of this book.
No,
No,
I
would agree.
gotta hardcore disagree because number one, in the movies, Richard Armitage's acting is incredible.
It's
It
good.
is
I'm just saying
it's not good.
good.
It is Aragorn level acting for this character, for this kind of like little dwarf king character. He's doing big boy acting for this movie, which
Okay.
is a little bit more fantastical than the original Lord of the Rings. He's doing an original Lord of the Rings acting style for his character throughout these movies. Some of the characters, like, some of the other dwarves are acting according to the setting and the style of these movies. Thor and Richard Armitage is doing acting as if he were in the original
1998 film in Lord of the Rings, right?
And it's compelling to me. It's compelling that because they set it up. They set it up in Desolation of Smaug. It's like he says this is going to destroy him. I wish I could watch as it eats away at his mind.
Yeah.
And then the interactions with him and Bilbo, it's good. It's compelling, and that's
I
the
have
reason
no problem
I
with
like
the story. Look, I don't have any problem with the storytelling and the character developments. It all works. I'm just saying, I even think about it in the books. It just is a soft landing for such an epic adventure. You know what I mean?
I would say in the movies that portion of what is in the books is better in the movies because there's more written about it.
Look, you can't
More in the movies about it.
The movies cannot avoid it. The movies do it justice really well. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying, as far as good, fun, Hobbit adventure, dragons, gold, life and death, I think Unexpected Journey, The Desolation of Smaug, and the first 30 minutes of Battle of the Five Armies is all great. I think it's all great filmmaking. And then the rest of the Battle of Five Armies is good, and it's worthy to watch. It's definitely there, but I'm putting it at like a 7 out of 10, whereas everything else is like 8s. You know what I mean? 8s.
So
there's moments that are 9s.
As a movie as an adaptation from a book, how high is this for you?
A 7.
It's pretty high for me. I would say a 7.
If I'm putting Lord of the Rings at a 10, then I'm putting this as an 8.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So this beats all the other movies.
Yes.
This, and then you got John Carter.
Carter.
And we got The Shining. And then you got like Aragon and Divergent there at the bottom.
Aragon and Divergent are definitely the bottom.
Probably Aragon and Divergent, I think. Because even Dune, that 1980s one, has people who love it.
Sure.
People who watched it when it came out and love it.
Mm-hmm.